Hello, and welcome back to another week of Called to Homeschool. This is going to be a very exciting and special episode. So, if you are on YouTube, you'll see I have an amazing guest right next to me who he'd like to point out is actually taller than me, but I am sitting in a taller chair. So, normally, if I'm interviewing somebody, it's done through Zoom or because we live in different locations, but this is my own kid. So, he lives with me. So, this is my son, Porter, who he's actually been on the podcast before when he graduated homeschool. And he has been serving a mission for our church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter day Saints, the last 2 years in Arizona, and met a lot of you lovely humans in Arizona. And I refer to him a lot as Tico. So that's why that gets confusing. But, anyways, I'm going to have Porter tell a little bit about himself. So, also, we are sharing one mic because that's how my setup is. So, there might be a little delay in sound and all those good things, but we are doing our best here. So, Tico, tell a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, just what do you want to know?
Like, what are you
Oh,
into?
okay.
Hobbies? I don't know, cool things about you.
Cool. Yeah, so I'm 20 years old. Like my mom said, I just got back. So the only thing I'm interested in is proselyting for our religion. Just kidding. I was before my mission, I was super into music. I still am. I'm a guitarist and I played for lots of bands locally, lots of cover bands, and then a few where we did our own stuff. And I'm also a fitness instructor. So I'm a coach for our local CrossFit, and I've been doing that for a bit. And now I'm working on mortgages. So
Living the dream,
yeah.
huh? So Tico's a ton of fun. And one of the reasons I want to have, I want him on for a few reasons, and I'll get into that. But I know anxiety is something that is very common. And a lot of times when we're talking about anxiety and different things like that, from a parent's point of view, like anxiety is what's the word? Like you can catch it. You know what I'm trying to say? Is contagious.
Okay.
Anxiety is contagious, but so is calm, right? Well, here's the deal. I'm not a really big anxious person. My husband's not a really big anxious person. And yet, here we have this very handsome young man who really, really struggled with anxiety and depression on his mission. And so sometimes you feel like as a mom, like you do the best you can, and then you just need to support your kids and whatever obstacles that pop up in their way. So I wanted to Tico to talk a little bit about when his anxiety and depression started, what did that look like, all of those types of things.
Yeah, so it never started before my mission, which I've talked with my parents about, and that was very interesting. That I never, to the contrary, I almost feel like I was, almost critical of people who struggled with it. Which I regret now after having gone through that. But what can you do? And it really started in the mission for our church. It lasts for 2 years for men, and I remember it starting to hit around month 5 or 6 is when I was out there living on my own, middle of this ghetto area of Arizona, and I just started feeling terrible all the time, and not wanting to go. A lot of what we do as missionaries is we go and approach strangers and try and share this message with them, and I became so critical of my approaches that it became hard to even function normally in other aspects of my life. And so a lot of my anxiety was fear that I wasn't good enough. A lot of toxic perfectionism leading to the point where it was hard to maintain normal relationships, and even was affecting me physically.
Yeah. But it kind of was a big shock, right? Because like you'd never dealt with this your whole entire life. Like there was no, I think you were even looking for a reason why you should be sad or anxious. Like nothing horrific happened to you, nothing like that. And I think that's really good understanding for other people that you don't have to have some horrid trial for people who feel anxious or depressed. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because I um I mean, coming from the receiving end of the homeschool treatment here, it was great. I really did have a good childhood. I've seen my mom grow a lot, which has been really cool. I don't think lots of people get to see that because they haven't lived with her for 20 years, but she really has. She's grown a lot. Um, and my childhood was great. You know, we were well taken care of. Even when we had struggles, I didn't really know because my parents were really positive. Um, I part of me suspects that the reason I started to struggle on my mission is because I didn't have the outpouring of love, you know, that I was constantly receiving at home. Um, but yeah, no, that's definitely true that, you know, I wasn't abused. You know, I didn't have some tragic financial loss, no death of a close friend or family. It just kind of happened. So it can happen like that.
Yeah, and I think sometimes then there's some guilt that comes with that, or like I should have a really big reason to feel anxious or depressed or anything like that. And so then I would think you'd then get caught up in that when that would just make you feel worse.
I don't know if I ever really thought about that, but
Okay.
I don't think a lot of your thoughts when you're anxious are very coherent anyways. So it's yeah, I that never personally happened to me. It was more just fear of not being good enough.
Yeah. So, I mean, this was a hard trial for you. And for those of you who aren't familiar with our church and whatnot, and how missions work is that you're only allowed to talk to your family once a week. And
It used to not be that way.
yeah, and it didn't even used to be that way. It used to be Christmas and Mother's Day. So we could talk once a week, but I mean, that's probably not enough when you're dealing it up with a daily basis. So, what are some things you did on your mission to help you stay out there, help you to not go so low that it was like needing hospitalization or something like that? Like, what were some of your coping techniques you did, or some of the things you did to kind of deal with it?
There are a few things, and I should preface it with like, um, you know, conquering anxiety, it can take a long time. That's not the case for everyone, so I'm not saying that it has to take a long time or you're a failure, right? But um, for me, the things that I think that's interesting you said that kept me out there. Lots of faith, like a belief that like that God did want me out there. That belief was a driving force. Um, I mean, we're very active, right? So being outside, I think sometimes if I could, a lot of times if you see missionaries biking around, we do that a lot. And I think that that activity level helped me. I was very good to exercise each morning and try and eat healthy foods. So I think a lot of that. One thing I was meeting with a therapist as a missionary, and he taught me a lot of mindfulness techniques.
Mhm.
And I think one of the best things that I could do, which is actually something I think that she did in her, is that book dropping?
Oh, not yet.
Okay, I won't say that. Sneak peek, but but one of the things that he had me do was these mindfulness techniques where I would basically distract myself for a little bit, not the some she's always told me, and then my therapist told me as well. So, you know, good sources there was like don't stop yourself from feeling the negative feelings, but it's okay to you know detach a little bit. So like one I remember he told me was called 5 4 3 2 1, where you had to look around, look at 5 things you can see, 4 things that you can hear, 3 things that you can touch, and then the other ones were like smell and taste, where
Mhm.
like you could do 2 or 1 on those. Um, but actually doing that and then just taking deep breaths and being like, so I'd get like these little attacks where it'd be like, oh my gosh, I'll never be good enough. Like I'm just a failure. And then if I could just like look at 5 things I could see and then, you know, listen for 4 things, I could stop for a little bit and then just stop and say like, and I'd have to take 3 big breaths and just say like, you know, that might just be a thought that's being caused by anxiety right now. I could call it out and it'd be okay. And those thoughts came a lot.
Mhm.
Um, and so it wasn't that they went away, it was just I learned how to manage them, you know?
Yeah, and I think that was something you and I talked about while you were out on your mission too, is like learning how to live with it. Of like this, for some people, you may get to a point where like, "Hey, good morning, anxiety. Like, you're not going to bug me today." But some people, like, it may be like, I think Porter said, like your little puppy that follows you around, like, oh, there it is. The like, you don't have to feed it. You don't have to, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? You can be abusive dog owner.
Uh,
Just kidding. He loves,
Metasusa Fiat.
yeah, he loves it. I don't know, so that wouldn't work. Okay, so well, Porter came home from his mission in the middle of August, and we then went on a big trip together as a family where we successfully blistered Porter like nobody's business. This tip real quick. So like you can see he's a little bit darker. My husband's a little bit darker. And so Porter probably is my darkest kid. And we didn't think anything of it. We're in Hawaii. It was super cloudy and I didn't sunscreen anybody. And so the rest of us got like a little pink, but Porter, we full blown blistered. So like, welcome home.
So you and I'm an adult now, so
Yeah.
mothers don't give up on your kids when they become adults because they still need help.
Yeah. I guess I still needed to remind you, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was fun. I guess if you don't know that on a mission, you don't go swimming, like you don't take your shirt off other than like showering or changing or whatnot. So he was really, really pale. So, anyways, that was his welcome home. His sister then left and started her mission shortly thereafter, and then just kind of figuring out different things of what he wants to do and things he wants to try. And he has become really, really passionate about helping other people who also struggle with anxiety and depression. So talk a little bit about like how you like wanted to do that, why you wanted to do that, kind of your journey with that.
Yeah. So I actually was thinking about a lot because I made a little bio for my website I'm working on, and
You gonna
um
drop that? You can say
yeah, I'm gonna drop that
it.
ticothomas.com. um it I mean, when you start going through that and you start to get better and you start to see how much people suffer and really feel that, um it like it opens your eyes. You don't want others to go through that too. Uh which is hard to relate to unless you've really, really experienced like a bad bout of anxiety or depression. Um but I mean, I think that's, some that, and maybe I get it from my mom a little bit because I know she's, one of the reasons she's helping create happy families is because it's something that she didn't necessarily, have all the way. And so now she can go help others. And so that's kind of how I view it now
Mhm.
is, um, I went through that mission and, I loved my mission. So I don't want anybody to think like it sucked. But like it was hard. It was really hard. I was very anxious and very depressed for the majority of it. Um, and I, that that kind of stinks to think of how many kids out there my age are going through it and they didn't have, Megan and John Thomas, right?
Mhm.
To call every week and tell them that they're good enough and that they're supported and loved. And so that's why I'm doing this is because people need help and a lot of times they don't have friends and family that they can turn to. I did. I was extremely fortunate. Um but a lot of people aren't that way. So
That's awesome. Thanks, Tico. Yeah, so I think it's I can't remember who said it, but it's like pain suffers to be, or it's like it's not suffering anymore when I'm gonna say the quote wrong. Do you know what I'm talking about?
yeah, I don't
It
know.
ceases to be pain once you give your suffering meaning. It's something
It sounds
it
cool.
sounds real nice, but I know I didn't create that.
Well,
Somebody else
it's
did.
like the office or like quote.
Oh,
I'll get back to you.
yeah. So something about that, but like when somebody has gone through a painful experience and then you use it to help other people, a lot of times it ceases to be suffering for you and you use this pain for good. And I don't know if I talked about this on the podcast, but I was studying somewhere that the difference between a villain and the hero is what they use their pain for. And a hero uses their pain to rise above it, right? So Batman's origin story, he went through a really painful story. His parents were murdered, and he used that to become a vigilante and try to protect the city. And then if you use Batman characters again, they also had a painful experience, and so they use it to inflict more pain, right? So a lot of us go through a painful experience, and this was hard for Tico. And I mean, as a parent, that was hard
Yeah.
to watch your kid, and you couldn't just like good luck another week like you got it buddy, right? Like that's it was a little bit tricky. And so I love seeing, because for my own self, as I get to help other families and people create amazing homeschools, then it's like totally worth my own experience. So I hope, as a mother, that's my hope for you. So Porter's going to be doing a really fun challenge, and it makes me giggle because like sometimes you can see your own self coming out in your kid. Like I do challenges. We've done family challenges. We've
Yeah,
done
I was actually thinking about that. I remember doing that as
yeah.
soon as they do a draft and
Yeah,
everything.
doing a draft for family challenges like that. I do challenges like No Yell November, different things like that, different challenges. And so Porter's putting together a challenge, and I have to give his dad credit for the name because Johnny always feels like he gets gypped because he did create Levels of Liberty. I'm sure some other cool names like that, but
Any product you've ever created.
any product anybody's created, he's fantastic. He's great at naming things. That's what his linguistic degree was good for. So Porter is going to be doing a challenge called Rocktober. So I want you to tell everybody about this Rocktober challenge.
So Rocktober, it's not a concert. Probably kind of sounds like it, but it's not. Rocktober is a mental health improvement challenge for so that you can rock October is kind of the idea behind that. Um, and it just kind of came to me. Actually, the inspiration behind it was just the other week. I was catching myself to falling into those feelings of anxiety and depression again. So for people who are starting to get better, don't give up on the positive habits that you built up because if we start slipping, then they can come back. Um, and so there was just one night I had a really, really bad, anxious night. I don't know how else to call it.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't an attack or anything, but I just didn't feel great about myself. And some thoughts that you don't necessarily want there were in my head and I didn't know what to do. So I got some sleep and I remember waking up and being like, was I just tired? Like was I just really, really tired? And I'm not trying to like downplay people's anxiety and depression by saying that, right? But I think there was a little bit of truth that came to me that like maybe a lot of the reason why I've been feeling anxious is because I've been staying up too late. I spent an hour and a half on social media today. Like maybe I'm, feeling less about myself because I've been on Instagram for way too long. And that kind of started clicking in my head. So I was actually working on life coaching stuff and I was like, I need to take a step back and like figure this out real quick before I go and try and coach others. And I started doing this challenge for myself for a week, where I've been making sure I get enough sleep. I journal every day. And sleep is the biggest one for me. It might not be for others, but
It's
I'm
mine too.
okay. Well, so they like mother, like son.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a good representation. Sleep is big for me. Journaling, being outside, that's been really helpful. So I just set a few parameters for myself, and I just thought maybe other people would benefit from this too. Like maybe if this is improving my mental health, and I think it took like even just the next day, I took a nap that day, a 20-minute nap, and like no anxiety that night.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that was the inspiration behind it.
It's awesome. What I love about this, because I don't even think he was living at home when I started creating the fundamentals for the No Yell November course and the No Yelling program. But like the very beginning of that course is making sure your fundamental needs are taken care of, right? Because if you are trying to deal with a stressful situation, anxiety, anything like that, and you haven't eaten, you haven't slept, you are just sitting on social media or like movies or Netflix or something like that, and you're not getting outside, all those types of things, your problems are going to get a lot bigger and it's going to be a lot harder for you to do it. So I love that it's just like so principle based of like, let's just get to the root so you're functioning again and finding a little bit or even a lot more joy in your life. So the challenge is going to start October 1st, right? Yeah. And goes to the end of October or 4 weeks. What is it?
It's the 31st, yeah.
Okay, so 31 days.
It's very spooky.
It is very spooky.
Don't get scared about it.
So, what are some? So, you're going to be doing different habit challenges, right? So, what are some of the habit challenges you're going to have people do? You don't do all of them, but tell like what some of them are and why you picked those.
So I think the biggest one that I picked, so it's going to be a point system. I've developed like a scorecard where people can keep track. And one of the biggest one that you can earn points on is actually social media. And so for that one, like you can get a certain amount of points if you turn off your notifications for social media. She actually suggested that to me, and that just turning those off, like that, like changed my
It's so
world.
nice.
Yeah,
I've had
it's
mine off for years.
I should have listened years ago, but I did not. So like I did that, and then like you can get points if your social media time is limited to under an hour, and even more if it's under 30 minutes. Another one is like eating 3 servings a day of fruits and or vegetables, so that you can start having real food. And I mean, because if you don't feel good, like you're not gonna feel good. I don't know how to phrase that better, but like you're not gonna act in a way that's
Well, like
appropriate.
if you're sitting there and eating junk food and you feel groggy and you feel heavy and you feel that yucky. I mean, we've all done it, right? Like you go get the big greasy cheeseburger,
Never have I ever. I'm just kidding.
fries, or like multiple pieces of cake or something like that, and then afterwards you're like, ugh, I don't feel great. But like you never eat an apple and like, oh gag, I feel terrible. It's like
Sad worm.
unless I had a worm. But that's just protein. But like you eat an apple or real food, right? And your body just feels nourished and all those kinds of things. So let's see. So now this is my question. Who is this challenge for? Like who can sign up for it, do all those kinds of things?
Just me and you.
Oh,
No, just kidding.
yay.
Yeah. That's a yeah, mommy son challenge. No. So the challenge is open to everyone. I don't have a limit on who can join. I do feel that this would be particularly beneficial to teens and young adults. That's an audience I can generally relate with more because I am one. Um, so that's who I feel would most benefit from it. But everybody at any age, no, anybody at any age, can have a mental health crisis. Nobody's exempt from that, just because of their age or their gender. So the challenge is open for everyone. We actually were talking earlier that it may even be beneficial for. I have a couple clients of mine who just signed up for the challenge, and it's actually a mother-daughter pair.
Yeah, they're gonna do it together.
Yeah, well, and I thought that was so cool because I mean, imagine. Well, one of the biggest things that helped with my anxiety and depression is support from my parents, and I have to give them credit because it was every week, I would be like, oh man, I feel sad again. Like it's the same thing, and they were always like, Tico, you're doing so good, like we love you, and we're proud of you. And I wish I could convey the more emotion, but I'm a little dry sometimes. So uh
Write a song about it.
yeah, that's what I do. It's easier that way.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll sing now
Yeah.
later. But like, I mean, can you imagine the support if your 12-year-old daughter is feeling like she's not as pretty as the other girls, that are her peers, and then you do this challenge. You don't just make her do it, because who likes to be made to do things by themselves, and it's like, well, now I'm alone, what do I do? It is more fun if your mom's like, can I do this with you? Like
Yeah.
that would did I remember I used to be a little chunky as a teenager, and part of the reason I lost weight was because my parents said, like, hey, let's get like four of us. So you got my older brother and me, and we did a diet called the Whole 30, and I lost 10 pounds that month. There's no way I would have done that without them, challenging me. Not even a challenge, it was just an invitation.
I think it was too, like, it was about health. It wasn't like, hey, you need to lose weight, buddy.
Tubs.
No, but it was about like getting a healthy habits and healthy lifestyle. Just so you know, I'm not like body shaming my kids.
That's what you know. I'm just kidding. No, she didn't. She didn't. But that principle of I did it because I felt supported by my family. And it's a good thing, right? It wasn't that, like, I would, reemphasize that my mom was not calling me fat ever, ever. But she did help me do things that would help me be happy. And so if you can, I mean, I feel like you would want your kids to turn to you for advice, right? And if you're just, belittling them for feeling anxious, they're not going to want to turn to you when it really matters. So if you can help encourage them and do this challenge with them, I'm not saying it's going to fix all your problems or your relationship with your teenager, but I think it will help. And I really believe that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I will be putting in the show notes a link. It's just a Google Doc to sign up for. It's super simple. You can go to, what's your Instagram, Coach Tico Thomas?
Yeah, Coach Tico Thomas.
Oh, how cute. I'm Coach Meg Thomas, Coach Tico Thomas.
It's a Tico with a C.
Oh, Tico. Thank you. Is that the Spanish version of Tico? Or why is it a C? Do you know?
I don't know, but
Okay.
people spell with a K. And
It's not a
it's
K.
like a trigger for me.
Okay.
Don't do it.
Please don't trigger Tico. So Coach Tico, Tico Thomas. So he'll have a sign up in his Instagram. I'll actually put one in mine as well, just in my link tree. But I will put it in the show notes, and I will send it out in an email just so you know anybody can do it. So I do think it'd be fun. We're gonna do it as a family, and all of us kind of join in and support him. But like, I'm big about habits, right? Like habits create amazing lives. And somebody who has an amazing life, it's because they have amazing habits. And so finding things to help you to deal with anxiety, right? And not have your anxiety take over you, but you be in charge of your anxiety And for some people, maybe it's not anxiety, but some people, maybe you just feeling inadequate or stupid or like, I'm not very cool or whatever your worry is. Like it's all affected when we're not taking care of our basic needs and some of these really good habits. So it's a $10 buy-in. It's super, super affordable. Porter's going to then send out prizes at the end and all those types of things. Anything else you want to add with your Rocktober?
No, I I just liked what you said, that this isn't to fix you or fix your mental health. This is to help you, as I always like in the New Testament says we can become more than conquerors.
Yeah.
I really like the idea of conquering anxiety, right? It's not going to go away. People, bad things always happen to good people. Like it just happens, but we can fight it. So that's what this is for.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, and then this is exciting for everybody in my membership because Tico is going to come into Mama's members and help coach teens. So be watching for that, those of you in Mama's members, so that so part of Mama's members I've added where you can do a free 15-minute call. And so he's going to help with some of the teens and just really being closer to their age, really being well aware of anxiety and depression and having it be a little bit fresh. And sometimes that's kind of nice when somebody's like, because like I'm at a point now where my depression that I used to struggle with is so long that like I can say like Porter, this doesn't have to be something that has to bug you every single day of your life, but it's pretty old now, right? And so sometimes it's nice to have somebody being like, I get it. I remember what it was like to be young and feeling this type of way. So I'm super excited to have him in there. Okay, so go ahead and make sure you sign up for Rocktober. If Porter doesn't write a song about this, we should cancel him. I don't know. Yeah, he'll just quit. But you can go to Coach Tico Thomas is his Instagram, or his website is just ticothomas.com. Okay. Or you can sign up on all my places as well. So anyway, have an amazing week. Hope to see you all in Rocktober joining us as we rock our mental health for October. Have a great day. Bye.